Thank you very much. It's a honor to be here and to share my experience of the risk type. So what I want to share with you, well, this is done already, so my background is more not a psychological background, but I do experience that psychological had a huge impact on decision making within the financial industry. And this came, and I think probably everyone will remember what happened in 2008, that the financial crisis makes me more aware how much risk culture and risk attitude, risk type, influence decision making, have influence also on the financial robustness and the financial strength of a bank, of a pension fund. So I thought, never waste a good crisis. I was very interesting. How can we capture risk culture? And one way to do that is to assess on certain themes like leadership and knowledge, but there is also the area of behavior. And how can we capture that? And that's where I that I learned to know risk type and how you could use this risk type to capture risk behavior. So risk type, what the value for me, so Jay asked me, why is it valuable for you? Well, why it is very valuable is, it is easily to understand. Within the financial industry, we have this strange habit of thinking that preferences and personal behavior does not influence our work. It's not very common, and no one is very enthusiastic when you say we're going to have a psychometrical tool to look at behavior and how you feel. If you talk about feelings there, we're just doing business. It has nothing to do with feelings. But the risk type helps to overcome this natural dislike we experience within the financial industry, because there you find languages used within the typing of the different risk types. You will see them in the diagram, which is very recognizable. So they recognize that they can relate easily to the work they do. So there is much less hesitation to talk about feelings and preferences. Well, they do not obviously think they talk about preferences and feelings, but they do. But we are helping them by using their language. So this is why I think it's very valuable, especially when after a session, I'm just going to take you through how I use the risk type, that they can easily think of actions to change their behavior. I don't know who it was, if it was Ruth or someone told us that we can change behavior. We are capable of changing. I'm not asking you to do a sort of brain surgery to take up your personality. No, it's more like thinking what could work good, what doesn't work. So the risk type is very valuable for that. Of course, it's not only valuable, luckily we experienced that it's also very valuable within other kind of industries as well, not only the financial services, but today I want to share what I do within financial services. So there it's very valuable. What I do is boardroom evaluation, team building, and workshops, and also one-on-one, of course. But these are the main three products I use where I use the risk type. First, boardroom evaluation. Within the Netherlands, it's mandatory if you are a board of a financial service company. Once in the 2 years, you have to have an external board evaluation. So, for instance, if you're a bank like ABN AMRO or ING, once in the 2 years, you have to invite someone to help you with your board. If you are the board executive, vice president or whatever, you have to ask someone to evaluate the way you work. What's the dynamic within your team, within your board team? So I did several ones for a pension fund. Large pension funds, I help them to evaluate their dynamics. And what I asked them is to do the risk type, and after that I made, based upon the team report, I made an analysis, and I had like a 4-hour workshop with them. And I asked the board always to start, and that's something I've learned also from the risk type for PCL. I lay down the diagram, and I asked all the members to stand on their profile. And what's happened is that everyone more or less is going to stand in one area because they're more or less like. And so they already start a conversation like, how do they recognize that in their day-to-day business and interaction? And what does it mean for things like group thinking and blind spots and bias? So it's very valuable to do that. And here you see there is no hesitation when I use the risk time, because they're more like, hey, I recognize this, or I didn't expect it, but hey, when I'm thinking it through, I see that it's more recognizable. Indeed, I can be very by the book, and because of that, missing the big picture. Team building looks a lot like the boardroom evaluation, but the difference is more that it sometimes also comes with new goals a team is setting, where the boardroom evaluation is really about what did you do, not about, and of course you can take that knowledge to use it for the future. So it looks a little bit the same, but it could have, you know, an offsite. I can use, we use the risk type, for instance, for risk management teams to see how can they be more effective. What about your stakeholders? What does it mean if you have like a group, a certain kind of preference, how you manage certain types of questions from stakeholders, how you help them, what does it mean for the interaction? And the workshops, I love them very much. It's like if you have like a group of auditors, they need to have the permanent education, or actuaries, or it can be all kind of professionalism. And they have to do the test, and you can have groups like 50, it sounds really large groups, but it's very nice to take them through the risk type. And I have prepared all sorts kind of activities to explore on what that could mean for them as for their professionalism, effectiveness within the environment they work in. It's very nice, and of course I gained a lot of data, and today I want to share what I find out with all these kinds of use of the risk type. So since I'm in London, I thought it would be nice to have a pub quiz. I thought it would be like 6 p.m. now, but it is in the morning. So we do not have the beers, but we do have the questions. Just to see if, you know, you had a lot of experience now how the risk type works for those who are the first time engaging with the risk type. Let's see what kind of question we have. For financial industry, what do you think? I'm not going to give the answer right away, it will be end, but because I want to share this with you, which I find it was not surprising, but I do not want to give it away already. What do you think? You have the choice, the left side or the right side. So if you are for the left side, please raise your hand. Who think financial industry is the left side? Okay, one, not the majority. Who does think that the financial industry is on the right side? The majority. Okay, so I'm very interested, of course. If I don't know if the ones who want to share, just think about why do you think it is on the left side. I will come back to you when we enter the last question, and I will also come back to the other ones, of course, why it is on the left or the right side. And what I mean left or right, some people may go like, sorry, but you know, I did a risk type and I'm from the financial industry, I'm on that side. What I mean is the majority, the significant part, and I'm talking about significant like 70%, something like that. Based on the Dutch market, probably it's totally different with here in the city, you don't know. What do you think pension boards, the pension board, what do I mean with a pension? It should be pension fund board, of course. I see that I forgot to put in the fund. So you have a pension fund and you have a board who has to manage all those billions of euros or pounds or dollars. What do you think? You can choose between 1, 2, 3 or 4. We do not have our green and all sorts of papers to wave on. So I'm going with 1. Who thinks pension fund boards are majority? You have to think about 60, 70%. 1. Who think? So no intense, no empathic. Empathic. The 2? Who thinks 2? Okay, majority, I think. 3? Some of you think 3. And 4? No one. So the big picture creativity, audacious, the kind of, it's not. Let's see what the answer is. Indeed, it's on that the majority. You know, I think because at one hand we are very happy, probably, because we do not want them. Maybe, you know, they need to stick by the rules. They need to take care of a lot of money for the old age where you cannot work. So it doesn't feel right, intuitive, right, if you have someone who doesn't go by the rules and say, well, okay, sorry, I made a mistake, you lost half of your money. So, but at the other hand, if you look at the Dutch market, and I don't think it's differently within the UK, there are a lot of changing going on. So I will go on further with the next slides on the pension fund board. What are the risks or what are the weak spots of composition in your pension fund board if you're more concentrated in the 2 areas? So more concentrated on prudent and deliberate, which once again, it feels natural if you do. That doesn't mean once again that you also have all the risk type. I experienced that. I think Jim was referring to that, and I really experienced that. And we had a board, like 7 were on that side and the blue, and you had one on the yellow one. And they were like, now I understand why, let's say the name is Pete, why Pete is so crazy. He always has crazy ideas. So that was also already a negative feeling around this different behavior. And we tried, of course, to see how could you use that different behavior. Right, next question. Less than 3% of the financial industry. And this is really true. If I have a large group, I did also large groups of investment managers, etc. And you will see when they stand, because when I do the large workshops, they also have to stand with their risk type, and then you see 1 or 2 parts of the risk type, no one or maybe 2 or so, are standing there, and all the others are standing at a different risk type. Which one do you think? Who thinks that will? Okay, blue of course doesn't go anymore because I've already given that away. Who thinks that will be 1? Ruth, others? Who thinks 4? Oh. And 3? Okay, so 3 maybe. It is the red one. And I will come at the end why this is a very weak spot within the financial industry. Because that means that you lack empathic side, you lack creativity. And this is really funny, not really funny, but really interesting, maybe more. Because if I always go to those person who, maybe 2 of them, maybe 1, and sometimes it's really empty. And I ask them, how do you feel? And they say, well, now I understand. I always feel like I'm alone and that people do not understand me well, etc. But that's really, really obviously. And we will get back to that. I have to watch the time because I'm very not that good at time. Yes, it goes well. Okay. I put on a timer. So the C-suite. This is also very interesting. If I look at the executive with C-suite, I mean, or really the executive board, or maybe the level below that. And where do you think? Well, we have only 2 spots, but the C-suite within the financial industry, the majority, I think like 60%. Where do you think? Who thinks 4? All right, who thinks 3? It's 3. You will see that there is more like a more composed, combined with, indeed, like, you know, we have to seek opportunities and things like that. So what's going on with what's 4? What's that? Well, there's a small group. It's more the entrepreneurial side. You will see that, and so there is a part that also 4, but it's the larger is on the right side. And I mean, really like 80% in what I've so far discovered, like more than 500 data points, is on the right side. And what that means, we will come back to that at the end of the presentation, but let's think about it. But I just wanted to ask someone who thought it would be on the left side, who wants to share his or her thoughts about that. Yes?
Yeah, I thought it was for a couple of reasons. Partly because my instinct said right-hand side, and yet I like to challenge that, think about it the other way.
Okay.
So that's partly why. That was my personal smile. And also, I was thinking of two other reasons. Firstly, like dark side behaviour. So if people aren't sitting on that carefree side and the excitable side, then there must be some people there making decisions, otherwise we wouldn't have repeated financial crises and things going wrong as well. Plus also, some of the people I've come across professionally who work in that field, there are some people who definitely sit in that area and are very go for it, gung-ho, and probably steamroller the more prudent decisions that aren't really very good.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing this. And yeah, there's no one.
I've worked in banking, so I resonated that there are a majority of people who I've worked with are on the right-hand side. But I have worked very entrepreneurial.
Yes.
At the forefront of change and pushing the bank to think differently and almost like a startup culture. And so I have definitely worked with leaders on the left side. So a real combination, and that's how you get through that cultural change.
Thank you very much, because we will come in at the end of the process exactly on what you just shared with us, and thank you also for your thoughts. But what you also said, and that's something I experienced as well, you say, like, how do we end up with it in like behavior that like what happened before the crisis? Of course, it's more like a gung-ho, and we seek opportunity, because the decision-making leadership is more at the bottom. So there's a small group who has a different profile. But at the other hand, the way is not on the creative and the empathic side. It's on the more, it's us, and we have a certain goal. We do not think of the rest. And that's something you will find, that's it's a little bit like, black or white, how I share it currently. It has more layered, of course, but that could be an explanation. So let's see just some profiles of different pension funds. You could see where they had like prudent, deliberate. And so they were organized. But I wrote an article once on Indiana Jones. I said we are looking for Indiana Jones for the pension fund boards. And people were not happy when they read the title. But what I tried to explain was not that we want reckless people. So there's a difference between adventurous, carefree, and reckless. And there was just a comparison made, I forgot who did, between hasty and reckless, kind of. It's a different connotation. But what I want to point out is that within the Dutch market, there's a huge change going on within the pension fund market. There's new legislation. We have experienced, and this is, of course, the same within the UK, very low interest rate, which has a huge impact on how you, on your asset portfolio, on your investment decisions. So there is a lot of going on. Your environment is changing. The pension policy, I don't know, the members of the pension fund are changing. No one is, if not no one, but the majority is not staying like 40 years with the same employer. So you have to change. You have to be able to put a spot on in the future without thinking immediately about all the risks, which is very difficult. So that's why it's important. And I don't say that you need it all the time, but you have to think where in the process, on what decisions do we need the creativity, where do we need the empathic side we were currently missing. So it's a well-organized, but you also need the other side, the more adventurous side. So that's why I asked them, Indiana Jones, where are you? But it's also very difficult just to say, well, we plug in someone. We had a board. I think it was, the below one. They said, yes, okay, we see it, we see it. Yeah, we're going to ask, like Miriam, she's from communication and she is more empathic. And we put her there. And I said, okay, Miriam is coming. I'll be Miriam. I will do the role play directly within the workshop. And they go like, okay, can you give me an example of what happened in the past? And it was they had to write a communication kind of thing on a decision they made. And it didn't land very well with the group for all the pension members. So people were like, what did you do? It was very hard and people didn't understand. So I said, okay, let's role play that. So they said, well, we write it. And I was Miriam, I said, it doesn't feel right. And I saw them directly going like, no, what do you say, feel? they get, they couldn't listen to that. And this is real through it. It was funny. And they experienced like, oh shoot, we already blocked. When I started to say, it doesn't feel right, they were like, what's your problem? This is not about feeling. These are the facts and this is the text. And I said, well, so it's good to realize that you need another way of thinking, but what you also need is to know how to use that you learn how to give feedback, to listen, to experience friction without, want to say, shut up, I don't want to listen to that. So it really is good to think about what you missed, but also think about how can you use it within your team. The other one, the C-suite, this is also something I experienced. The large part is adventures more composed, but risk management like actuaries, but also the compliance, etc., compliance auditors, those who are in the second line, if you think about the 3 lines of defense governance model, there can be some friction. And I find this person was CEO of a large insurance company, and based upon a profile, I discussed the profile, and the CEO said, well, I have a big problem because risk management, the chief risk officer, is on that side of the diagram. And I need tomorrow figures based upon certain kind of development within the macroeconomic area. I need some impact. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be exactly the right numbers, but I do need some view on what these development means for our risk profile, for my capital decision. I have a board meeting next week, and I want this information, and I want it now. But risk management is going like, sorry, but I need more data, I need more time, I cannot do it. And the CEO goes like, but I need it. It doesn't have to be precisely. But if you say to a worrier or prudent person, it doesn't have to be precisely, you're not helping him or her, because they want to have it precisely. I don't say that you have to wait like 5 weeks and call the board like, you get your impact analysis around 5 weeks. Of course not. But if you want that side to help you, you have to start maybe with something like, I can imagine that it's difficult for you to have something delivered tomorrow because I know you want to do it, thoroughly and have everything in place and then start the analysis. But we do not have that much time. How can I facilitate you that you can help me to have it in a more shorter period? And maybe it's helpful to have some consultancy to help this person to overcome that, or give him some trust like, I know that after 5 weeks there could be a different result, and I understand that. But so what you need to do is change your language, or that would be my advice, to make use of that instead of pressuring on something that side doesn't like. It's also the other way around. It doesn't help if you say, well, I'm not going to do it. I need three months. You can ask for help. You can say, well, I find it difficult. I need more assurance on a lot of things. What could I change or whatever? So it's more like being aware how you can use each other to make use of the diversity. So the two pictures, so the one end you have the big picture on the adventurous, composed, carefree side, But those who want to protect the house need to make sure that they have a more thorough way of working and scrutinizing, etc. So there's another interesting thing. When you see all the experience Jeff and the whole PCL and risk type has, you will find a very interesting analysis on gender and risk type. And this is something I find also within the financial industry. What I found out was that it's the same, what already was found out. So maybe you think lousy consultant, she finds something that is already known. But it's very interesting because there's a lot of this debating within the Netherlands, but I think in UK, etc. as well, where it's like, you need more women within boards. And what I wanted to do to add in this discussion is that we need to think about what kind of behavior, what kind of attitude do you want on the board? Do you want a more long-term? Do you want more team playing? Do you want a more reflection? Then, in the large population, then you will find that women do have more those elements I just mentioned, like team playing, long view, self-reflection. But it doesn't say that an individual woman has those preferences. So there's also a very nice study about HSBC where they found out the same, how women and men invest differently. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong, it's different. And I think it's interesting to look at that aspect as well. And I find that on all my data, the same, when I have a large group, yes, the financial industry is on the right, but if you make a difference between men and women, you will see that the women are more risk averse and the men are more risk tolerant. And I always say, well, it's not right or wrong. Of course, being risk tolerant is not good at all. No, it's a joke, but it's different. And doesn't mean every individual, but in a large group, as far as I have all the data currently, I see the difference as well. And which is it's not surprising, because you will hear that women are more insecure. I say, well, it sounds like I'm also very insecure. As my prudent, I'm very perfectionistic, but that will mean, if you look at the financial crisis, also that I will ask more views. Do I do it right? So insecureness is sometimes translated in you shouldn't be insecure. You should be more, empowered. But it is also a very good value, and I would advocate not to get rid of that and to make all sorts of leadership programs based upon being not insecure. So that's the gender differences. But should the financial industry be worried? Because that was the subtitle of this experiment. I'm going to see if I'm going 10 minutes, so that's nice. I can go on and on, but I won't do that. But if you look at the financial industry, should I be worried? And this, one of the audience members already pointed it out. What's happening currently, if you see there, the diversity is lacking. And what does this mean? So this is always what you have to ask yourself. What are the weak spots? So I do not say that I have to come up with all those on that side, but first think, what could it mean? And what I see is, I always think about soccer. We have one famous player who also plays here within the Premium League in England, and that's, I don't know if you know him, it's Virgil van Dijk. He's from Liverpool, maybe not your soccer team, I don't know, it's very, yes, okay, Liverpool in the house. We are very proud in the Netherlands of Virgil, because he received like best soccer player of Europe recently, and he won Messi and Ronaldo. He was ahead of Messi and Ronaldo. So that is very, but he's also very leadership kind of, how do you call it? A very nice person to how he behaves off the field as well. But if you would ask, so everyone is very, not only me, who cares what I think, but if you look at all the knowledgeable people, they gave him the statue like player of the year in Europe. But if you will ask all the trainers who have a lot of experience, they wouldn't never say, I would want 11 Virgil van Dijks on the field, because he's a great defender. But don't put him in the goal as a goalkeeper, because you will, it doesn't make any sense. So what you will see in soccer, you miss sometimes within within companies, the diversity, and make use of this diversity, because it doesn't make sense to put in a Virgil van Dijk, who's excellent in the defender, but also in how you have to play. He's also captain of the team in the Netherlands. Is to make use of that. So they won't put them in the goal, like, okay, you're a defender, but just put on your gloves and be a goalie today. So what we miss is how, first of all, be aware what your weak spots are, what your strengths are, and then see how you can incorporate it. And then I come to that part where what I see is AXA. I don't know if you know AXA. AXA is an insurance company which has a very long track record. And I have a very long experience within the financial industry, especially within the insurance, on the insurance side. And AXA is always the example for other insurers. They were always ahead, and they are very, what do you call that? They are really setting the example. So good practice, AXA is doing it. Like economic capital, like valuing on a market basis, they already did it before it was legislation. So AXA is really always on the front. But there's one funny part. If you see, this is AXA on the left side. On the right side, you have the startup, what already was mentioned there. Lemonade is a very new insurance company. Who knows Lemonade? There are a few who knows Lemonade. Lemonade is a startup company. It's almost the whole process, largely chatbot. So, but there's something else different. They have the customer value at the toppest level. And that's why I have made this slide, because there's something funny. AXA, the CEO in Germany, says rethinking insurance from a customer's perspective is key to our mission. So what he really says there is that beforehand, they didn't think about the customer's perspective, which is very honest, but which is very true. And he made this he made this key statement, or this statement, because they go in on a joint venture with Lemonade. Lemonade is an insurance company, but were looking for larger insurance companies for some reinsurance deals. And working with Lemonade, AXA realizes that Lemonade had that left side. Because Lemonade was thinking about the customer, and how did they do that? I will invite you to look, we do not have the time now, but I will invite you to look at their sites. I do not have any stocks within Lemonade ourselves before you think that. I don't even have a policy there. But what's interesting is they say, what we don't think the business model of an insurance companies is in the benefit of the customer. Because if you have a claim, there is no insurance company who is going to say, yes, a claim, we love it. But that's your product. It's almost like a bakery, and you come on, can I have a bread? It's, shit, she wants to buy a bread. What I want to say, because they earn premium, and the less claims they have, the more profit. And there's nothing wrong with profit, but I think that you need to rethink your business model if the thing you need to do for your client interferes with your profit. And Lemonade says we do not want to make profit if you make less or more claims. We only have a flat fee, because we do not want to find ourselves in a position that we try to do anything to withhold you from a claim, because that's our business. So what they do is have a flat fee. If they make profit, you can choose to which charity you want to give it. It's a rethinking. Maybe there are going to be a lot of other things that's not good or can be improved by Lemonade, but what they could do was rethink about the business model. And that's what AXA couldn't. But what AXA does now is incorporate the left side by joining them. And be aware of rethinking insurance from a customer perspective. So this is really why we should worry. So the takeaways, creativity and empathy are lacking. It's a little bit hard. I know it's not 0-1. It's not the count for us who are here and working in the financial industry, but methodological structure, focus are the strength. But we need to organize creativity, thinking, and more emotional thinking. And that can be done by looking for a different kind of value. But probably you will need more than only one. And you need to learn how to appreciate and how to use it. And some people say, well, we're a good team, we never have a discussion. I'm like, well, I'm worried. Because change, and it's good to objectify, that's diversity. I have to objectify my view on something because you think differently. That's the strength of diversity. So I say never waste a good crisis. We need to use it, and I think risk type can help with that a lot, and I have a very good experience with that, and I hope I shared with my not so good English today my experience, and I hope you had a good one. Thank you.